with just one touch. I could with just one touch. I could feel my body giving.
Hello everyone, my name is Priska Lindistiani Hondra. I am a second semester student in the English Education Study Program at Nias Raya University. In this video, I will be reading a text as part of my pronunciation practice assignment. Thank you for watching and I hope you enjoy this video. Now, let's begin. Introduction. The United Nations defines violence against women as any act of gender-based violence that results in or is likely to result in physical, sexual, or mental harm or suffering to women, including threats of such acts, coercion or arbitrary deprivation of liberty, whether occurring in public or in private life. Intimate partner violence refers to behavior by an intimate partner or ex-partner that causes physical, sexual, or psychological harm, including physical aggression, sexual coercion, psychological abuse, and controlling behaviors. Sexual violence is any sexual act attempt to obtain a sexual act or other act directed against a person's sexuality using coercion by any person regardless of their relationship to the victim in any setting. It includes rape defined as the physically forced or otherwise coerced penetration of the vulva or anus with a penis, other body part or object, attempted rape, unwanted sexual touching, and other non-contact forms. Scope of the problem. Population level surveys based on reports from survivors provide the most accurate estimates of the prevalence of intimate partner violence and sexual violence. A 2018 analysis of prevalence data from 2000 until 2018 across 161 countries and areas conducted by WHO on behalf of the UN Interagency Working Group on Violence Against Women found that worldwide nearly 1 in 3 or 30% of women have been subjected to physical and or sexual violence by an intimate partner or non-partner sexual violence or both. Global and regional estimates of violence against women. Over a quarter of women aged 15 until 49 years who have been in a relationship have been subjected to physical and or sexual violence by their intimate partner at least once in their lifetime, since age 15. The prevalence of lifetime intimate partner violence ranges from 20% in the Western Pacific, 22% in high-income countries and Europe, and 25% in the regions of the Americas to 33% in the WHO African region, 31% in the WHO Eastern Mediterranean region, and 33% in the WHO Southeast Asia region. Globally, as many as 38% of all murders of women are committed by intimate partners. In addition to intimate partner violence, globally 6% of women report having been sexually assaulted by someone other than a partner, although data for non-partner sexual violence are more limited. Intimate partner and sexual violence are mostly perpetrated by men against women. Lockdown during the COVID-19 pandemic and its social and economic impact have increased the exposure of women to abusive partners and non-risk factors while limiting their access to services. Situations of humanitarian crisis and displacement may exacerbate existing violence, such as by intimate partners as well as non-partner sexual violence, and may also lead to new forms of violence against women. Factors associated with intimate partner violence and sexual violence against women. Intimate partner and sexual violence is the result of factors occurring at individual, family, community, and wider society levels that interact with each other to increase or reduce risk. Protective. Some are associated with being a perpetrator of violence, some are associated with experiencing violence, and some are associated with both. Risk factors for both intimate partner and sexual violence include lower levels of education, perpetration of sexual violence, and experience of sexual violence. A history of exposure to child maltreatment, perpetration, and experience. Witnessing family violence, perpetration, and experience. Antisocial personality disorder, perpetration. Harmful use of alcohol, perpetration or an experience. Harmful masculine behaviors, including having multiple partners or attitudes that condone violence, perpetration. Community norms that privilege or ascribe higher status to men and lower status to women. Low levels of women's access to paid employment and low levels of gender equality, discriminatory laws, and etc. Factors specifically associated with intimate partner violence include 1. Past history of exposure to violence. 2. Marital discord and dissatisfaction. 3. Difficulties in communicating between partners, and 4. Male controlling behaviors towards their partners. Factors specifically associated with sexual violence perpetration include 1. Beliefs in family honor and sexual purity. 2. Ideologies of male sexual entitlement. And 3. Weak legal sanction for sexual violence. Gender inequality and norms on the acceptability of violence against women are a root cause of violence against women. Health consequences. Intimate partner physical, sexual, and psychological and sexual violence cause serious short and long-term physical, mental, sexual, and reproductive health problems for women. They also affect their children's health and well-being. This violence leads to high social and economic costs for women, their families, and societies. Such violence can 1. Have fatal outcomes like homicide or suicide. 2. Lead to injuries, with 42% of women who experience intimate partner violence reporting an injury as a consequence of this violence. 3. Lead to unintended pregnancies, induced abortions, gynecological problems, and sexually transmitted infections, including HIV, whose 2013 study on The health burden associated with violence against women found that women who had been physically or sexually abused were 1.5 times more likely to have a sexually transmitted infection and, in some regions, HIV compared to women who had not experienced partner violence. They are also twice as likely to have an abortion. 4. Intimate partner violence in pregnancy also increases the likelihood of miscarriage, stillbirth, preterm delivery, and low birth weight babies. The same 2013 study showed that women who experienced intimate partner violence were 16% more likely to suffer a miscarriage and 41% more likely to have a preterm birth. 5. These forms of violence can lead to depression, post-traumatic stress, and other anxiety disorders, sleep difficulties, eating disorders, and suicide attempts. The 2013 analysis found that women who have experienced intimate partner violence were almost twice as likely to experience depression and problem drinking. 6. Health effects can also include headaches, pain syndromes, back pain, abdominal pain, chronic pelvic pain, gastrointestinal disorders, limited mobility, and poor overall health. 7. Sexual violence, particularly during childhood, can lead to increased smoking, substance use, and risky sexual behaviors. It is also associated with perpetration of violence for males and being a victim of violence for females. Impact on children. Children who grow up in families where there is violence may suffer a range of behavioral and emotional disturbances. This can also be associated with perpetrating and or experiencing violence later in life. 2. Intimate partner violence has also been associated with higher rates of infant and child mortality and morbidity through, for example, diarrheal disease and malnutrition and lower immunization rates. Social and economic costs. The social and economic costs of intimate partner and sexual violence are enormous and have ripple effects throughout society. Women may suffer isolation, inability to work, loss of wages, lack of participation in regular activities, and limited ability to care for themselves and their children. Prevention and response. There is growing evidence on what works to prevent violence against women based on well-designed evaluations. In 2019, WHO and UN Women with endorsement from 12 other UN and bilateral agencies published Respect Women, a framework for preventing violence against women aimed at policy makers. Each letter of respect stands for one of 7 strategies: relationship skill strengthening, empowerment of women, services ensured, poverty reduced, enabling environments, school, workplace, public spaces created, child and adolescent abuse prevented, and transformed attitudes, beliefs, and norms. For each of these 7 strategies, There are a range of interventions in low and high resource settings with varying degree of evidence of effectiveness. Examples of promising interventions include psychosocial support and psychological interventions for survivors of intimate partner violence, combined economic and social empowerment programs, cash transfers, working with couples to improve communication and relationship skills, community mobilization interventions to change unequal gender norms, school programs that enhance safety in schools and eliminate harsh punishment and include curricula that challenges gender stereotypes and promotes relationships based on equality and consent, and group-based participatory education with women and men to generate critical reflections about unequal gender power relationships. Respect also highlights that successful interventions are those that priorities of women whose core elements involve challenging unequal gender power relationships that are participatory, address multiple risk factors through combined programming and that start early in the life course. To achieve lasting change, it is important to enact and enforce legislation and develop and implement policies that promote gender equality, allocate resources and prevention and response, and even and invest women's rights organizations.
I just had to let you know you're